Funny enough, it's like whenever I forgot to even say this before we went on, but whenever I meet someone that has as much passion and it pours off them as much as you do about football, the one thing I do wonder is what were your earliest exposures to football and how you got so into it. I mean, were you the guy in middle school running the NCAA pool? Like, what was your early exposures that just made you fall in love with football and then eventually fantasy football? Curious.
So my first year I fell in love with the NFL was 1977. So I must have been in 6th grade at the time. And my dad and I started to watch the games, the 4 o'clock games. We probably watched the Jets or the Giants. We were local. Remember in the old days, you only had CBS, NBC. So, and then the
black and white TV. Black and white TV.
Oh, yeah. I had black and white TV, my friend. And then the 4 o'clock game in general was the national game. Cowboys, Raiders. If there was, the Steelers playing the Oilers sometimes. So you would get those big games, and usually that was Sunday. So my dad and I would be watching game and eating dinner. That would be our Sunday time together. And so I started watching it, and that was the year of the Orange Crush. And I thought it was so cool, the name. Like when you're a little kid, you're in 6th grade. I just fell in love with the Orange Crush. And my mom found me a 6-pack of Orange Crush soda, right? And they were, back then, they were on Time magazine cover, Sports Illustrated. I mean, the news cycle was so different than it is today. If you didn't live through it, it's hard to even describe. So when Time magazine had a football team on the cover, that was just unbelievable, right? And then I remember it was the Super Bowl, and we used to do current events in 6th grade.
Remember current events? That was a funny everyone did that. I mean, we grew up in the Northeast. Current events was like a thing. You clipped do you clip the magazine or the newspaper and you brought it on a piece of loose leaf, right? And you taped it on there. Okay, so same thing.
So that week, it was the Broncos Cowboys Super Bowl, and I got sports. I was lucky, just random. Like, you wonder how life works, strange, right? So I think it was Miss Guadita was my 6th grade teacher. She threw up there. She threw up, John, you have sports. So of course I put the Super Bowl up, and then she wanted to do a poll in class. So everyone, who were you rooting for in the Super Bowl, right? I was the only one who rooted for the Broncos. Everyone wanted the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, I lost. So I had but and then it just became such a passion to look forward to those Sundays, hanging with my dad or just being alone watching football. And back in the day, we only had 3 games a week. You'd have one on Sunday at 1, one at 4. And then you would have Monday Night Football, and I couldn't even stay up the whole night because I was too young. So you watch like maybe the first half if you got lucky. So the game was so different, but that's where the passion is. And back then, the passion came from print media, Pro Football Weekly, Pro Football Digest,
Sports Illustrated.
Sports Illustrated, wherever you could get print media, I would devour it because I love to read, but obviously sports was my passion. So I would just read everything I could. And I'm sure you said you were in the Northeast, I'm Connecticut. The local newspapers here were just Jets and Giants. Even the Patriots weren't covered in the 1970s. I mean, people in New England, the Patriots blackouts times. If you didn't sell out the stadium, you wouldn't have the game on TV. Patriots weren't selling out in 1978, 79. So you couldn't even see the Patriots some weekends. So it was all Jets and Giants. And the only way I could get coverage from other teams was through the national media, the print media.
Yeah, there's nothing like the back of the New York newspapers as far as like headlines, New York Post. I mean, people.
No, if you're from the tri-state area, the Post and the News were priceless for your headlines in the 70s. Even today, they're good, but I don't read them like I used to. The world is so different. But there was nothing better than that Giants flop. Jets drop another one. Like, it was just so classic.
So how did it transform into fantasy football? And then eventually, I mean, for those who don't know John Laub, I think that you have one of the most interesting ways that you think about Dynasty, Devi, and everyone's going to get a chance to experience that as well. And I've put all your links in the video description, the podcast below. I believe that people that listen to this that are introduced to you for the first time, first of all, where you've been. Second of all, they're going to become instant fans. So that passion for football, I mean, that's great, a connection to family. So when does that transform into fantasy football?
Great story. I just graduated college in 1989. And
from where?
My friend,
where'd you go to school?
Western Connecticut State University. I actually have the T-shirt on today, ironically, right? So my friend and I were living together, and we got a job at Norwalk Parks and Rec. And we were basically working with children from age 6 to 14. So we drove together. It was a long day, like 8 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. And in the day, there was no air conditioning. We were literally in an open baseball field for, 7 hours a day almost with kids. I think I might die if I had to do that now in my 50s. But we were out there all day long, 95-degree heat, right? We'd have to have water breaks with the kids. Like, it was so crazy. But on the ride home, we were both football fans. And we saw like a local Barnes. It wasn't even Barnes Noble. Remember in the old days they had those small local bookstores, right?
Local, yeah, like a mom and pop bookshop. Like the same time, yeah, they used to have mom and pop video stores, mom and pop bookshops. Doesn't exist anymore.
Doesn't exist. So we saw a Cliff Carpentier Fantasy Football Digest book on the bookshelf, and I said, Tim, why don't we buy the book and see if we can play this game? So what we did for about a week is we drove in together, and whoever wasn't driving would read the book, and we talk about forming a league. Literally, Alan, in 1989, in the fall of 89, was our first draft with 8 of us. We were all in college together at Western, and there might have been
8-man league. Wait, you just say an 8-man league? 8-person league?
Yes, 8-man league and standard scoring. And we thought we were so far because we added yardage. Like at the time, woohoo! Right? We added 1 point for every 10 yards receiving. And we actually didn't do decimals, Alan. We rounded up. So if you got 56 yards, it was 6 points. If you got 55 yards, it was 5 points. So I remember
John, do you remember leagues that, like, unless you got 50 yards, it was 0 points? Like, that's how, like, the original.
Yes, the original leagues. Yes, I remember. And I might have been in that book or magazines.
Right.
And, Alan, I wonder this. I won the league the first year. And I wonder to this day, if I had not won because I was commissioner, so I'm doing all that work, right, by hand, calculator. I was handing out papers. My friends would come to my apartment. They wanted to see the results, the printout. And I wonder to this day, if I didn't win, would I be this obsessed? That's the thing that always, like, I won and I just became completely obsessed. And then, Alan, in 1993, I still can't believe it seems like another lifetime ago. There used to be a company called Sports Challenge, and they used to do like Wall Street games and investment games, but they also got into fantasy sports. And it was in the USA Today with salary cap. I beat 15,000 people and won $10,000 in 1993, all by hand, Alan. Like that, literally.
In 1993, $10,000. I mean, that's like $50K today,
and my friend, the biggest mistake you want? I don't tell this story, but I'm going to tell it to you. My best friend, Dave, he came up to me, goes, what are you going to do with the money? I said, I'm probably going to save it. I want to pay off a few bills, right? We had credit cards from college, a little bit of debt. He said, John, you should take $2,000 and buy Microsoft. And to this day, there's nothing I regret. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't take Dave's advice because I don't even know what 2000 and 1994 money, if I just, let's say somehow I could actually have kept it all these years. Life changes and you have to do other things. But I wonder, and I'm even afraid to look, like how much would that $2,000 for 93? And I vividly remember we were eating lunch and he told me to do that and I didn't do it.
I mean, for every one of those, and I understand and appreciate that. And for every one of those ideas, someone has given you 100 cockamamie bad ideas too. And
so many bad ones.
Yeah, in a similar story, in the very short version, is somebody told me to buy Apple at like 200. Not only did I say no, I called them an idiot. So that is along lines of your story. All right, so here's my. What's your breakup of leagues by now? So now that we understand the background where you came from. How many dynasty leagues are you in right now? And how many typical redraft leagues do you do, including all the industry stuff, everything? How many leagues do you have to manage in a given year? Just say this year coming up.
So right now I have 4 dynasty leagues. I've cut back. I mean, 2 of them folded. So I haven't replaced them because I would probably want to do a redraft dynasty. But Alan, I've learned that I've enjoyed it better with limited leagues in dynasty. One year, I think I had 8. And, Al, I couldn't even search the waiver wire in Dynasty every week. It became I enjoyed 6. I won 2, finishing also in 2 others. I think I finished in the bottom 3. So it's not like I want to be honest, right? I have a wide variety. But I said, let me keep it at 4. If a 5th one came up, maybe I would do it. I would think about it. Redraft, I'm probably going to end up with 14 to 16. I've decided to keep it at 15. 1 year, Alan, I did 25. And you know what? That Tuesday night waiver wire with the family, my lovely wife, with, teaching full time, it became like a chore. Like it literally and I said, you can't, at least for me, with my busy life and the way my life is, I can't do 25. So I keep it to 14 to 16. And that's somewhat reasonable because I also now have some on Wednesday night waivers. So I kind of like it better where you have like maybe I have 7 teams on Tuesday, 8 teams on Wednesday, because then at least I can break up that waiver wire madness.
Yeah, the people that are regular listeners to this podcast know I have a sickness, so I admire when somebody like you comes in here and tells like, "Hey, I'm enjoying it more now with a little bit less." Like I'm one of those, just like our common friend Nelson. I'm one of those guys that has 28 dynasty leagues. I know that's like peanuts compared to Nelson, but it also these leagues are like 30-person bench. There's not a lot of waivers that go on in those things, but still, you still have to go through it. It's a pain in the neck. So I do the best I can to consolidate them on Sleeper. And the reason I asked you for that is that I always, there's nothing more fun than rookie draft season, right? I mean, when they start and they're all flying at you, and we all are optimistic. And I've heard you make a lot of great cases for, all these rookies and talk about their warts, talk about their upside. But today, what I want to do is I want to put, a little bit of sobriety, what we should actually expect. So when I say, hey, 5 rookies that will bust, I want to talk about a couple players where what's more than likely the realistic outcome. I mean, we'll get into them. And we just get so spoiled. We see Jamar Chase. We see Jalen Waddle. These guys that just from day one are taking the league by storm. So I want to do a little bit of the opposite, and then we'll get into a couple different things. But before that, I just want to ask you, what's in a startup situation, a dynasty startup, what's your general philosophy? Let's call it a super flex, PPR, no tight end premium, but what is going to be your general philosophy and strategy in a startup draft?
First, get a franchise quarterback who's under 25. I do not want to be trapped in a dynasty draft where I have to draft that quarterback. And we know the NFL has about a 50% hit rate historically in the first round. They're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination either. So I've got to go and chase that one starting quarterback. That is going to hurt me year after year. And then what if, Alan, I look for the guy and he's not? What if I took Tua over Herbert? Right? Not only did I ruin that, right? Oh my God, it happened everywhere.
Yeah.
And not only did I win my dynasty team by taking Tua, but then I got to compound the mistake because then maybe next year I went after Justin Fields. Right. And then, and we just saw a complete disaster. What if I was crossing my fingers for Malik Willis and he ends up as a 3rd round draft pick? Right. So those to me, I get that quarter, and let's say 26. I shouldn't say 25. Let's say 26. If I can get that starter, I'm golden. Now, then what I'm going to do later around 5, depending on how you got to watch the board, because I'm a big believer your competition is going to dictate the value of that super flex position. I'm going to watch the quarterbacks. So, Alan, you mentioned on all 4 of my teams, I have Kirk Cousins. All 4 of them. He is the absolute perfect super flex quarterback. I just throw him in there week after week. Yeah, I know he's a little volatile, but at the end of the year, the numbers are there. So once I get to rounds 4 or 5, I am seeking that how many quarterbacks are on the board? Can I get a quarterback between the age of 27 and 30 who I believe is undervalued? So I actually have Derek Carr on a bunch of teams. I'm not in love with Derek Carr, but when he's your 3rd quarterback on a super flex, I got no problem with the Derek Carr. I don't want him as my, now this year we could argue if he's your number 1, but man, the value of a player like 3 years ago, Derek Carr, was priceless. He never gets injured. Yeah, I understand there's volatility, and you might have to play him the week where he has the stinker. I get it. But when I'm looking at my super flex roster, that position, I don't want to chase.
So in a rookie draft, for example, you talk about these 50% hit rates, but you also have to juxtapose that with first-round draft pedigree. I think Kenny Pickett is a very interesting draft pick in rookie drafts. So let's say you're in trouble at quarterback. Let's say you didn't, adhere to that philosophy, because I've been in superflex leagues where you spend your whole life chasing a quarterback and nobody's trading you a quarterback. I mean, try trading for QB. Right. Try trading for QB 15. You're going to have to give your firstborn. And then, you're kind of stuck. You end up paying like 2.1 for Carson Wentz if you're lucky. That's kind of how it goes down. So how do you value someone like that? Because early in the draft season, I had said to, people that asked me, I think it's okay to take Kenny Pickett at 1.2. Now, I have backed off that stance a little bit. So a player that's not top 10 draft pedigree, Kenny Pickett is probably guaranteed 2 years worth of starts if he's bad. So is he someone that we should be pushing up in a rookie draft?
So I have Kenny Pickett right now valued as a second round pick.
In a super flex.
So it's a real, yes, it's a second real conundrum, because if you have to have Kenny Pickett, it probably says you're drafting at the bottom of the first round. So what is happening is you're taking a quarterback that might not even get on the field, because we do have Mitch Trubisky right now. And Mitch Trubisky, for all of his challenges, he probably is better suited right now to be successful as a starter in Pittsburgh. If they're winning football games, we know coaches are conservative. Are you really going to take Mitch Trubisky off the field if you're 4-2? And we know Tomlin has never ended up below 500, correct? So, you have to project him, I think, at 9-8 at minimum. You could say he wins 7, but, you're going against a long track record of success. I was not the biggest Kenny Pickett fan coming. I did like him. He catapulted up my rankings. I personally do not overreact to the quarterback. I think, Alan, I'm going to cross my fingers he lasts to me in the second round. Or maybe I take, let's say I have the number 3 pick. I need the quarterback. I take my top receiver. Let's say it's Drake London. And if I have to trade up to the back end of the first round, maybe I have to trade my second and third. Maybe I have to do something a little radical, trade second and third in depth on my wide receivers, right? then I'm going to trade up for Kenny Pickett. But I cannot take Kenny Pickett in the top 6. Because then you're compounding what if he doesn't hit? Then, Alan, we're doing the exact same thing next year. And I just can't continue to churn at that level.
So I guess organically, we kind of arrived at our first rookie bust potential candidate without even thinking. If you're taking him at pick 2, pick 3, you'd say that there's elevated bust risk there then. Is that fair to say?
Oh, to me, it's like I would weigh bust more likely than success because we want the quarterbacks on the field immediately, right? I'm assuming if you draft a super flex quarterback, you're expecting the young man to play for you, at least in your super flex, immediately. And look at last year, Alan. Not everyone. The vast majority of the dynasty industry passed on Mac Jones. What an incredible irony that the quarterback that everyone passed on was the most successful rookie in the Superflex draft. Now, I had gone on endless dynasty preview shows last year, and I said draft Mac Jones. He's the best value at the quarterback position. I said it countless, and people laughed, thought I was crazy. I'm like, I like Mac Jones. But I said the value was screaming to me that Mac Jones in the second round was better deal than Justin Fields in the first. And I know, Alan, I'm not saying anything. Anyone can check me out. I have Jalen Hurts on 3 of my 4 dynasty teams. Alan, I have a team with Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, and Kirk Cousins because I drafted Kyler Murray. I had 2 picks one year in a dynasty. So I got Kyler Murray at 112, and I got Jalen Hurts the next year in round 3. I was just sitting there, and I'm like, I have to punish my fellow dynasty owners when they've let Jalen Hurts fall for 3 rounds.
Yeah, it seems like there's always a quarterback, even in Superflex, that falls to round 2 that, that has viability. I mean, last year it was Davis Mills. I would argue that Davis Mills was
I forgot about Davis Mills. He was a 5th round pick in Dynasty?
Yep. In single QB for sure. In Superflex, probably fell to that late 2, early 3rd. It's still a quarterback. And the best part about Superflex Dynasty is the players keep getting sharper and sharper. So it is,
they are.
Yeah. There's no, you always have your office leagues with Bob in accounting, but for the most part, if you're doing Dynasty in February through, April and March and May and all that, all those, you're dealing with pretty deep, even the median is a pretty sharp drafter. So just sticking with rookie drafts for this year, where are you on the number 2 pick? I don't think anyone's going to argue that Breece Hall should and is the first pick off the board, but there's this Kenny Walker versus Drake London, and maybe you don't have either of them, but there's merit. I could see the upside of both, and I can certainly, try buying a 20-year-old or try drafting or trading for a 20-year-old running back in Dynasty. Good luck. It ain't happening. So that's the case for Kenny Walker, but certainly the wide receiver 1 in Dynasty is always an appealing pick.
I'm going to ignore context because I do think your roster construction would matter. But if I'm looking at all things equal, I'm going Kenny Walker. The running back, the running back position is so valuable, and I'm a Kenny Walker guy. I did have Breece Hall above him, but it was close. And now that will Carroll be there in 2 years? That's an interesting question. So you have to factor in the possibility of a coaching change. But then I would argue, will Atlanta have a new quarterback next year? So there are factors on both sides of the equation here. But in a vacuum, without context, I'm going Kenny Walker. He has special traits. He can be a 3-down back, goal line back. And I know we don't have a lot of pass catching on film, but I think he had 15 receptions last year, some minuscule number, if my memory serves me. Allen, he has the ability to catch passes. Have we seen it? No, but we didn't see it with Jonathan Taylor. I will say this, as I've done more and more studying, and for 9 years now, I put it on Football Diehards. As I've done more studying, I'm a little less reliant on number of catches. I've got to watch the quality of the reception. Now, if a guy has 70 catches, well, I know he's a good pass catcher, or at least they used him. But what I see with Kenny Walker, is he catching the ball in stride? Is he catching it with his hands? And how quickly does he convert from a pass catcher to a running back in the open field? And those are somewhat subjective, and I'll admit that. It's easy to look at Rachaad White and say, oh, he had 78 receptions. That's a factual thing, right? It is harder to look at Kenny Walker and say, okay, what type of throw was this? What was the quality of the throw? And how did he react in real time to the reception? I see a player who can catch the football. When I broke down Kenny Walker in the small sample, I can see that.
Yeah, I'm with you on Kenny Walker, and I also see the side for taking the wide receiver 1 at pick 2, but I've had that number 2 pick in like 4 leagues, and to me, I just didn't even hesitate, especially since I do like some of the wide receivers in round 2. But as we know, those guys are always dicey himself. And I'm here with John Laub. John, just tell him real quick. You're on Twitter. It's at Gridiron Scholar. It's on the screen. It's in the video description. You can see that. And if you love fantasy sports like we do, and you love Dynasty, and you're ready for a new challenge this year, Dynasty Owner is the new way to play fantasy football with actual real NFL salaries, adding the strategy of running an actual franchise. Dynasty Owner provides a unique, challenging experience that will test your skills as an owner and general manager. You will have a complete control of your team's future. Can you create a dynasty of champions? Sign up at dynastyowner.com. Use promo code ROTO5, that's ROTO5, and receive $5 off a new team. I started playing around over there this year. It is really cool. I mean, it doesn't take more time. It just takes more strategy. So I definitely recommend a lot of people go over to Dynasty Owner and check them out. We are here talking about rookie busts. And when we say bust, it just means sober expectations. I don't want to, we use the word bust or must drafts. I mean, we're all in that SEO game. We need to, figure out ways to get attention on our podcast. So I am guilty of that. Someone that's really troubling to me, and I either want you to confirm what I'm thinking here with Garrett Wilson or not, or I'm worried about him on the Jets. Maybe it's some Jets bias we talked about a little bit earlier. I grew up a Jets fan, but I just wasn't impressed at all. And I'm not that optimistic about Zach Wilson. And given that Elijah Moore is the preferred target, we've already seen him produce. Maybe it wasn't with Zach Wilson. And I still like Corey Davis. So is Garrett Wilson set up to flop this year? And what's his long-term outlook?
Alan, that's a great question because I've struggled with that all season. I love Garrett Wilson on tape at Ohio State. He was my number 1 wide receiver. What I saw on tape, and some of it's schematic because Ohio State does so well at scheming the receivers open. So there's always that factor. But Brian Hartline is such a good coach. And if anyone doesn't know, Brian Hartline is the wide receivers coach for the Buckeyes. Unbelievable. Arguably the best wide receiver coach in college football.
And by the way, a fantasy darling of hey, waiver wire, pick him up in real football. I mean, I forgot that Hartline was the wide receiver coach until you said it. It was one of those things. So I'm glad you explained it. But man, was he even just overachieved based on his athletic ability in the real NFL?
Yeah, and what's most impressive, he's able to translate what he learned to teaching skills. Coaching is ultimately teaching. Just instead of teaching history, he's teaching route running. So I understand that. He was so good. Alan, he was the best, what I've said, he was the best deep separator that I've seen in my 9 years. And what I mean by that, 20 yards down the field, you will see Garrett Wilson 5 yards beyond defensive backs. It was just silly. His ability to get open deep. I have not seen that. He was so good, second level with the subtle head fake, the hip, and the feet. Now, since he's gotten on the Jets, what I saw at Ohio State doesn't matter now. Yes, some of it will try. I shouldn't say that. Some of it won't matter. I am also worried. Elijah Moore, I had graded higher than Garrett Wilson. And I just told you I loved Wilson. But Elijah Moore, I think, is ultimately better. But I think Elijah Moore is a little bit limited to the Z and the slot. He can play on the X. But I think Garrett Wilson is more of your classic X receiver. The only advantage is Zach Wilson will take deep shots, Alan. But you're going to run the football. The best way to protect that defense is to keep the defense on the sideline. I think by almost every metric, the Jets defense was absolutely awful last year. If I'm the head coach, Saleh, Robert Saleh.
And by the way, the Jets defense is the only defense on the waiver wire in our 14-team SiriusXM Dynasty League.
Oh my God, you're so right. He's the only. Because I remember I have the Dolphins and the Texans who I'm not in love with. And the only one I looked, I'm like, I can't draft the Jets.
I'd rather have like Anthony Schwartz or with some flyer at the end.
I forgot about that. You were right. So I said to myself, I've got to run. If I'm Robert Saleh, I've got to run the football. I've got to control the clock for 32 minutes a game. Let Zach Wilson be highly efficient with his deep shots. He has the two perfect receivers for high efficiency deep throws. Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore are great second level separators. They can get when Zach Wilson is buying time scrambling, and he's very good at that. And he can throw the football to any spot on the field at any time. They're going to take some wide open deep shots. The problem is I don't see Garrett Wilson getting 60 receptions immediately. I think he's a 45 reception guy for like 700 yards with maybe 4 or 5 touchdowns. Elijah Moore is more likely to end up with 80 receptions and 120 targets in my perspective of how I look at the Jets. And Breece Hall's going to get some receptions, and they've upgraded the tight end position. CJ Uzomah, Tyler Conklin. Do you know I looked? I think Tyler Conklin led or was second in snaps at the tight end. Like his numbers were silly. Like he's a very good player. Everyone's talking about CJ Uzomah, who I like also. But I think Tyler Conklin might be a better down-to-down tight end. So, yes, I think the targets are not there.
Yeah, Tyler Conklin, I know Irv Smith got hurt, but when Tyler Conklin was on Minnesota, he made that a 50-50, divide between their targets and their playing time too. So Conklin is a ceiling, he's a real NFL player. He's proved that he's at least the 18th best tight end in the league. And I'm just making that number up anecdotally, he's up there. Yeah. He's not a nobody. He's going to have a long career. All right. So if we agree that Hall and Walker should be the 1-2 in rookie drafts, and we both agree that do we think that Drake London, just on principle and draft pedigree, should be the 3? Are we in agreement there?
I right now, yes. The position that he's in, even though he wasn't my number 1, he's in the position for the most targets as a rookie, and at least for the next 2 years. I don't like Allen anymore to go 3 years out. At least if I said who's going to have the most targets over the next 2 years, I would say Drake London is most likely to be that player.
All right, so I'm in a rookie draft now, actually, and if I was picking 4th, I would just take Chris Olave there. I think that that's fair. And again, it just you don't have to win. You don't have to win your league with every pick. You could hit a double, and that's great in Dynasty, right? So, are you with me here? Or do you have someone different that you would take at the 4th pick once those 3 are off the board?
So Olave's risen the most throughout this process, because I think he's going to be in a much better situation to succeed now with the way the team is coordinated. I actually think Michael Thomas helps Olave.
Yeah.
Michael Thomas has got to be the player in which the defense is going to concern themselves about on a regular basis. Well, what does that mean? Olave's the guy who's going to see the benefit of one-on-one, most likely, the second cornerback of the defense. And we know Jameis Winston is going to take his shots, good or bad. Jameis Winston's going to throw the ball like crazy, you know? So I do like Olave. I think I have him right now. Let me check. I think I have him 4 or 5. It's very close between Treylon Burks and Olave.
Well, that's my next lead into your question. It's like, we're talking about guys that could disappoint. If I was going to form a bust list, it's kind of a layup to say that Treylon Burks is boom or bust, but he really is. I mean, you could easily be convinced for the case for Treylon Burks, and you could easily be convinced of why he's going to be N'Keal Harry. I mean, my feeling is that if you thought that that Burks was going to be a bust in the beginning, everything that's happened so far is like, yeah, told you so. But if you were anchored to him and his college production and his dominance, you're like, listen, all this other stuff doesn't matter. So you have him 5th. I mean, that's probably, or 4th or 5th. That's probably where I would take him too. But talk about the potential for the downside case and what could happen with Treylon Burks and what does a bust mean? As a bust doesn't have to be full on N'Keal Harry or Kevin White. What could a bust look like? How does he fail expectations?
So the only question to me with Treylon Burks is, can he be as efficient with a low target number as A.J. Brown? What A.J. Brown did so good compared to any other player? How efficient has A.J. Brown been since he entered this league? He has been simply unbelievable. I don't know if Treylon Burks could do that. If he can do that, then we are talking about gold, because that entire offense is dependent on the ability to make big plays based off of play action on Derrick Henry.
Yes.
And A.J. Brown on those deep crossing patterns, one-on-one, was so spectacular at getting down the field. I don't know if Treylon Burks can do that immediately. I've seen it on film at Arkansas. I was a Treylon Burks guy. Still am. Yes, I saw the clips of him. I'm not too worried about what rookie practice in May. He probably wasn't ready for the sun, the heat, whatever it was. Okay, it's over right now. Can the young man with 90 targets, what is he going to do with them? In the long run, I think he's going to be a great player. If that system, and I happen to believe that the Titans know what they're doing. Vrabel is a good coach. If Vrabel is there at least for the next 2 to 3 years, and they keep that system in place, and we can, how good will they be without Derrick Henry 2 or 3 years from now? That's going to matter. I understand that. But if they keep that system and Treylon Burks can be efficient, Allen, he's not A.J. Brown. And I had A.J. Brown with a higher grade than Treylon Burks coming out. But he's not that far below. And if the young man can take the opportunity, he will be very good. I have no problem with Olave or Burks. I think if I had a bet, like if I had 10 leagues, Olave 6 of them, Burks 4 of them, if that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, that just breaks up your percentage chance of success. You're split 60-40 on it. I mean, that's really what that means. And it's interesting. What I think with Treylon Burks, someone who did show his dominance at college and has his, athletic profile and his alpha size, what's good is we'll probably get an early reveal. Like what you see in the first 6 or 8 games is probably what it's going to be. I mean, yes, of course these guys do get better, but it's not like a player where he just totally fails in year 1. People will be like out on him. I think, we're going to, and it's going to be because it's such a polarizing player. I just can't wait to observe the Twitter wars. I'll have my popcorn ready because he is, I've never seen someone so social media so divided on a prospect. I mean, maybe there's one in recent history. All right, so moving on down through the rookies here, we're talking about bust potential, top 5 rookies that may bust. James Cook started off. I remember in February, I called him a sucker's pick in the first round. Now I wish I never said that because I'm thinking him because it's sometimes we just speak before we know, right? But I digest it a little bit now. A pass catching running back on a good offense. It's been well documented that the Bills wanted J.D. McKissick. They couldn't get him, so they get the best pass catching running back. Arguably, I don't know, Rashad White still is probably a pretty damn good pass catching running back. So Devin Singletary, sure, he was dominant, but I don't know anybody that for the last few years like, oh yeah, Devin Singletary is a bell cow. So I just think of this myself. If Devin Singletary was out for the year today, where would James Cook go in redraft? Probably the 2-3 turn? Not later than the middle of the 3rd round, right? So
he would definitely be off the board in the 3rd round. And if you like him, it'd definitely be at that turn. Yes, he would completely skyrocket up draft boards because I don't imagine Zach Moss taking touches away from James Cook if Singletary's out of the picture.
So give me the downside here. Like, is James Cook a good pick at pick 7, pick 8 in your dynasty league? I mean, where do you have him ranked, and what's his bust potential?
He does have bust potential because we have not seen the workhorse back. I'm a believer, and I think the statistics, if you look around, I have not done it, but if you've proven to be a bell cow in college, then you're more likely to be a bell cow at the NFL level. Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor. We've seen so many of these players who got astronomical workloads. Now, we don't want Ron Dayne for 4 years, right, playing at Wisconsin where he had the extra 250 carries or even 300 carries. If we see the workload for 2 or 3 seasons at the college level, we know that is going to translate very well to the NFL level. So my concern is we never saw it with James Cook. Now, part of it is the Georgia system. They are no longer, you and I grew up, I'm assuming you're closer to me than you are in your early 20s.
I'm 46 years old.
Okay, I'm 56 yesterday or Wednesday.
Wait, you look like you're 36. It's not fair, man. It's not fair.
Well, thank you very much. But yeah, so I'm an old man. So we used to see Georgia dominate the backfield with one stud. But with Kirby over the last 3 years, they are spreading that load a lot more equal amongst the Bulldogs' backfield. Now, part of it is philosophy, right? Kirby obviously isn't comfortable giving that 300 carry, 250 to 300 carry load to a guy. However, is it also because none of his backs are they true workhorse running backs? Remember Nick Chubb freshman year? I think he had like 1,600 yards for Georgia. Now he ended up getting hurt, I think his sophomore year, somewhere early in the season. Why is that happening? That's a whole different story. Couple reasons, I think. But at the end of the day, I've not seen James Cook do it. I think he's a dynamic 55 snap starter in the NFL. I would love, I don't think he's a 70 snap. I don't even know if we have 70 snaps. It's so rare.
The Bills, maybe. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, you have Derrick Henry, right? Jonathan Taylor. If he could get on the field a 55% snap share with his ability to catch the ball, you would have a very productive PPR running back. But that is something that we have not seen. So that's my concern. I haven't seen it. Do I think he has the skill set? I do. I do believe that. But until I seen it, I always have in the back of my mind, I'm not entirely sure.
So where would you be comfortable? Let's say your team is pretty balanced. Where would you want to take him in a typical 12-team rookie draft? Yeah.
Perfect value, 11 and 12.
Okay, so you were the league champion. You were in the finals. Yes. You're pretty balanced. Hey, I'm going to take him before I take some of the. So just a lightning round question before we just do a quick break here. Where is Jahan Dotson in your rankings? First round wide receiver, first round pedigree wide receivers. Would you take him ahead of James Cook, or is the running back value on the good team? So I know that's like everyone's making that decision, but that's a real decision people have to make.
That's a great question. All things equal, I'd probably take Jahan Dotson. I'm a big Jahan Dotson guy. I think he can be special. We do have the Washington factor, right? That's the concern there. But I do like Jahan Dotson very much, my friend.
All right, we're going to take a short break. YouTube audience, stay with us. You're not going to feel this break, but the podcast audience will be back in just a second. And we're back, and we're talking with John Laub, the Gridiron Scholar. All of his links are in the video description below. John, where are you doing most of your fantasy work right now? Is it for football diehards?
Yeah, football diehards is my NFL stuff, and I don't know, you probably know, I do all my college fantasy stuff on Fantrax. So those are the two sites I'm working on, and my video stuff is on the Rookie Big Board channel with my teammate Matt Hicks.
I just adopted the orphan team in the SiriusXM League on Fantrax, and I hadn't been on Fantrax in maybe like 4 years. Wow, has it come a long way as far as software? I swore off Fantrax, and I was to my own detriment. They updated it. The mobile looks good. So whereas I'm definitely I love playing on Sleeper and all the other platforms and stuff, but Fantrax, man, they have come a long way. So kudos to them. I'm glad that we're doing that league together. All right, we're talking about some rookie busts today, and I also want to leave some time because people that have stayed with this podcast all off season long, we haven't really gotten to the Debbie stuff, so I want to sprinkle that in as well because everyone talks about the 2023. Try getting a 2023 rookie pick. It's basically Bitcoin. It's not even gold, right?
You can't get it.
All right. You can't get it, and if you do get it, you better get like a top 30 pick in return or something like that. So, just 10,000 foot view. Is the 2023 class, this Debbie, for Debbie players and for next year's Dynasty players, is it overhyped? Is it hyped just right? Or is it underhyped?
I will say this. It is overhyped. The top players are special. What I think people are looking at, you have Bijan Robinson, Jameer
the running back, right? Let's for those of you just
they're special players, barring any injury. They are special running backs. Right now, I have them graded better than Breece Hall, and Breece Hall was my number one running back in this class. So right now, I have two running backs rated ahead of Breece Hall. Then they look at the top of the wide receiver board.
Wait. Could I just ask you real quick? I just want to ask you quick. So you have Bijan Robinson, and is it Jameer Gibbs or is it Henderson? Who do you have as your?
I have Jameer Gibbs.
Okay. All right. So there's two running.
Oh, because Trevian Henderson can't come out next year.
Trevian
Henderson is class of 2024 because he was a true freshman. Now, Debbie, I actually have Robinson. Trevian Henderson 2 overall, because Debbie is about putting all of the players together, right?
Right.
In the class of 2023, I think we're going to see 2 first-round picks. I do think
first-round running backs, 2 first-round running backs.
Ooh. I do. Yes, mine, because I think the NFL is going to love Bijan Robinson, dude. They are going to look his model. When you plug in what he's already done, 215 pounds, 41 career receptions, 6.5 yards per carry, 5-star high school recruit. My Debbie model loves Bijan Robinson. My anecdotal watching the film, taking notes. Like I do my real breakdown on the class of 2023, probably starting next October. When I'll really take close notes, I'll record games, I'll break it down Thanksgiving and winter break. But my film study loves him, but my model thinks he's extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
My model, 21 career touchdowns. He's everything you want. I'm a size bias. Give me the 215-pound running back any day.
You're a sizist.
Sizist, that's the word I'm looking at. I am. I mean, no.
You know what's funny? Like, you talk about 215 pounds, and yes, I agree. That is a good size for a running back. But when early on in Alvin Kamara's career, everyone thought, oh, he's just a pass catching running back. But he is, at 5'10" or 11 and 215 pounds. So you're saying Bijan and he's the 3-down back. Okay, so you saying first round running back to me blows my mind in today's NFL, because that is almost like mocked at this point. When I say mock, I mean, like, people make fun of the teams that take a first round running back. I mean, look who did it in recent times. It's, Urban Meyer, obviously, probably, the biggest coaching joke of all time. And the Steelers, who, people give a mulligan because, Najee was the Steelers' identity. And, no one thinks that was a real pick. But you think that Robinson and Jameer Gibbs of the 2023 class are actually good first round picks for a team that might be a running back away.
Hint, hint, Tennessee Titans. If Tennessee is it's debatable if they'll make the playoffs. I think Tennessee is an underrated team again. I'm a Vrabel believer, so I think Tennessee is going to win football games again. They're going to be good. I don't think they're going to bottom out. Well, let's say you pick 21, Allen, and Derrick Henry. We know the trajectory is heading down. I don't think Hassan Haskins is the clear-cut bell cow answer to the Titans. I think
he's late. He's late career Carlos Hyde. I mean, that's who he is.
Yes.
He's just, yeah.
Yes. Well, what if Bijan's sitting there for Mike Vrabel? And here's the thing. I love Twitter. Alan, I'm on it all the time. So I have to think like a football guy. And if I'm a football guy, and I'm trying to win football games, I know that the running back matters. I'm sorry. It just does. And we all have a dwarf perspective from Bill Belichick winning with this myriad of running backs. But what people are forgetting, in my opinion, he won because he had Tom Brady and he's Bill Belichick. Not every coach in the NFL is Bill Belichick, and they don't have Tom Brady. So how do I win? I need a running back. That's how a coach thinks. Why did the Jets trade up for Breece Hall? They looked at the end of day one. Robert Saleh says, I've got to win games. The only way I can protect my defense is if I can run the football. Michael Carter can't run the football 20 times a game. Bijan Robinson is going to be attractive to a playoff team that needs a running back late in the first round. And I like Jameer Gibbs. The thing is, Alan, they're both 3-down backs. My only caveat about Gibbs, he's listed at 210. Is he actual 210?
You think he could be like 204, something like that? It's possible.
Yes.
Okay.
We always have to worry a little bit about. Now, I do, looking at Bijan, he passes the smell picture test of 215. He might even come into 220 if he gets on the right weight regimen, right?
Yeah.
But what is Gibbs' way? That's my only concern. Both 3-down backs. You know what I heard today, Alan, which I can't believe this is the first time a national media guy has confirmed my bias, right? We all our own confirmation bias. Daniel Jeremiah said Jameer Gibbs is the Heisman dark horse candidate. And Daniel Jeremiah says Jameer Gibbs is one of the best running backs in the college football. Remember, Daniel Jeremiah was the first one on Alvin Kamara. Now I could be wrong, but he was the first guy who I saw in the national media that I remember. So I could be wrong. But he's the first guy who started shouting at the top of the rooftops that Alvin Kamara is a star in the making. Remember, he transferred from Alabama, and he was in a timeshare at Tennessee. He now said that he loves Jameer Gibbs. So
he loves Gibbs or he loves Bijan?
No, he loves Gibbs.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So that's fair.
And I love Gibbs too. I've been on Gibbs for 2 years now.
Right.
But he's the first one. He's the guy. When he's saying it, he's talking to people. He said he went to practice. He watched him at Georgia Tech. Look it. Gibbs is going to sail up boards if he produces in the Alabama system.
So we already know that a million things are going to change. At this time, a couple of years ago, nobody even knew who Joe Burrow was in the mainstream, except, the Debbie people. So a lot is going to change. So do you think that either one of these two running backs, Bijan, let's just talk about Bijan, does have a case for the 1.1 in Superflex rookie drafts? Or is the power of Superflex when you have two good quarterbacks like CJ Stroud and you have Bryce Young at the top of the board? Or are those guys, I don't want to overthink it, are those two guys the easy 1 and 2, given if they have the expected draft pedigree and they're going to be starters?
Right now, I would say CJ Stroud and Bryce Young are the 1-2 in Superflex.
Wow.
They're two valuable as Superflex assets. They're way superior to anyone who came out in this year's draft class. Absolutely love Bryce Young. Oh, Greg Cosella's Jameer Gibson is number 1, too. Look, that's two people now who going to start opening up eyes. And I mean, my good friend Felix Sharp, if you know him from Campus to Canton, him and I have been talking about Jameer Gibbs for 3 years now. So now the national media is starting to jump on the bandwagon. He's going to skyrocket. But those two quarterbacks, I'm in love with both of them. They're unbelievable in Superflex.
Lightning round here, because I want to make sure that I get you out of here on time. But so staying with the Debbie thing, I mean, wide receiver wise, is it a clear cut tier 1, or I mean, who's going to be your 1, 2, and 3, your top 3 wide receivers for next year that probably, or almost it would be a favorite for them to go in the first round?
I think there's 3. Not even a chance they leave the first round, and 2 of them will probably be top 15. Jackson Smith and Jigbu, Ohio State. Not even a question in my mind. Kayshon Boutte, I am still in on him. He's
out of LSU, right? The wide receiver out of LSU.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I've been talking and championing him because look at Brian Kelly's offense, Alan. He uses his alpha male receiver from Will Fuller to Miles Boykin. Oh my God, now I'm forgetting all the names. Equinemius St. Brown. When Brian Kelly has that guy, and he's made good players great college players. He now has a talent like Kayshon Boutte at LSU. As long as Boutte stays on the field, and there's some concerns there, I get it. He's going to be spectacular. And we know it. Georgia pedigree at running back, LSU pedigree at wide receiver, top 15 if he stays on the field. I'm a big Jordan Addison guy.
Are we going to see sorry, go ahead.
What?
I interrupted.
USC. He's unbelievable, Alan. A little small at 175, but that's not small anymore. And we saw what Devonta Smith did. I love Jordan Addison as a first-round pick.
Are we going to get a first-round tight end in 2023? The guy out of Notre Dame, Mayer, maybe one of the is there a chance we see another like TJ Hawkinson, Noah Fant type of year where we at least get one guy that in tight end premium leagues we need to consider in the first round of our rookie drafts?
Michael Myers going first round. The NFL is going to be obsessed with this young man.
Who does he most correlate with in the NFL now? I mean, I know it's early for comps, but
so he's a better blocker than like Kelsey and Ertz. So that's a good. See, he's such a good blocker at the line of scrimmage. So he has the pass catching chops.
You can Franken comp him if you want. You can say a little this, little that.
Yeah, so he's probably in the realm of Zach Ertz as a pass catcher, which is pretty damn good. A lot. But he would probably remember Ben Watson.
Of course.
Remember, he's a Ben Watson blocker. He is clear. Who was the tight end who kept getting hurt for the Cincinnati Bengals, who was so good that 1 year, but injuries derailed his career? He was a second-round pick from Notre Dame. Oh, my God.
Tyler Eifert?
That's it. He's Tyler Eifert, I think, with a better wide receiver pass catching skill set. Michael Myers, the real deal. He's going to be a first-round pick. I would say this, possibly Kansas City, late in the first round. They're going to be good again. Andy Reid's always good. You know, we all love Travis Kelsey, but he's 33, right? The years are catching up on him. Michael Mayer might be the perfect Chiefs tight end, my friend.
Yeah, talk about a team that might be a running back away. The Chiefs are going to have to struggle with that dilemma too. So, and some of the greats, like, you know, and I would put Travis Kelsey on the Mount Rushmore of tight ends. I mean, so those guys tend to age a little better. So, you know, we all say Travis Kelsey 33, but we could be talking about Travis Kelsey going into his age 37 season. It wouldn't surprise me, like Antonio Gates or Tony Gonzalez. Couple of lightning round questions because I have you here. I hope you don't mind me holding you a little past the hour. Biggest mistake people make in Dynasty?
Overvaluing a player based on scheme, or undervaluing, I should say, undervaluing. Oh, this great player went to a bad scheme. Great play, like A.J. Brown at the time going to Tennessee.
Oh, that's the ultimate mistake. I had him at like 2, moved him down to 8. That was my biggest. Like, I'm embarrassed about that one. Embarrassed.
I mean, so it wasn't just you, right?
Right.
A lot of people make that. And the opposite is true. An average player going to a great scheme. I did that with Kenneth Davis out of Baltimore. One of my biggest mistakes. I love Kenneth Davis coming out of Louisiana Tech. Who knows if it's the person, if it's jumping up to the NFL level from playing in Conference USA. He just did not have what it takes to succeed. I was like, it's Baltimore. Harbaugh is going to run the ball. He was an average back. It doesn't matter. An average back in a great scheme isn't going to do much.
Who's the rookie going in the top 12 ADP that you think is most likely to bust? Not just for this year, career. And you've been in 4 rookie drafts. You're not taking them.
Oh, so I have, I don't have any shares of Jahan Dotson, which is
you like him. But you like him.
I do like him.
How about this? Is Christian Watson a fair high bust potential guy? Like, I mean, obviously,
I have zero Christian Watson. Okay, that's a good one too. I have 0 Christian Watson, 0 Jahan, but I'm not against Dotson because I do love him. But Washington is a problem, right? I mean, and the value is not there for me. But Christian Watson's a better one. Isn't he just now injured too? Isn't he going to miss some training camp time?
Yeah. Death sentence.
Now, it's funny. I think I've gotten Romeo Dubs now in a couple. I think I have him in 2 drafts now. So maybe Dubs is the better player there. Who knows? At least he's on the field. That matters a ton for rookies. I got a lot of Allen Lazard, but I got Allen Lazard in dynasty leagues too. Actually, I got Allen Lazard in that league you and I are in. I'm so happy about that.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. So I saw a note out on Dubs today saying how he's NFL ready. So yeah, he might end up being the sharper pick in draft. So now that we've already put him to the side, in the 3rd round of your rookie draft or later, who's the player that you think is going to be, like you easily identified Jalen Hurts as a good player. Sometimes it's just so obvious. Nobody wanted Davis Mills. That was a good pick. So who's the guy in the 2nd or 3rd round ADP of these rookie drafts? I'm going to go a little bit to the positive here that you think definitely has a better chance than not to be successful. Last year, it was Elijah Mitchell. This year, it is most likely fill in the blank.
Wan'Dale Robinson, if he's a 3rd round draft pick. You can't. He's a 1st round pedigree for the Giants. I understand it. Not a huge Robinson fan, but no, 2nd round, right? Didn't they draft in the 2nd round? Yeah, I'm sorry about that. 2nd round draft capital. I'm not convinced Kenny Galladay is the answer at all right now. I would have said Jalen Tolbert, but I think he's moving up a little bit.
Yeah, you can't get him anymore unless you want to spend an early 2nd round pick. So,
and then the other guy, I drafted him in our draft, Alan. I like Khalil Shakur.
Yeah.
The Boise State wide receiver. I think there might be opportunity there. the Bills can support 2 or 3 wide receivers, and what if there's an injury? He might be an injury away in 2 years from being a starter in Buffalo attached to Josh Allen. I had Shakir as my 13th ranked pre-draft wide receiver. Love the film at Boise State. I think he's very nice player in the 3rd round of draft.
John's quickly become one of my favorite files on Twitter. I recommend everybody listening to this podcast do that as well. John, tell them where to find you on Twitter. It's on the video screen right now, but for those listening on the podcast, tell them where to find you.
Thanks, Alan, for having me on. Please follow me at Gridiron. Whoops, sorry, wrong hand. Gridiron Scholar 91 on Twitter. I couldn't afford the A and the R when I signed up about 8 years ago. So Gridiron Scholar 91. I'm always posting links to all of my work, Rookie Big Board, College Fantasy Football, and every year, it will be my 10th year this year with my Rookie Dynasty rankings, my rookie profiles on footballdiehards.com. But I love to interact with people and answer all questions.
Yeah, just so everybody knows that, when I'm making my rankings over, John's one of the guys I check in with his rankings just to make sure that I have a sober ranking. And again, I don't, that's what you should be doing, is making your board and then seeing what the industry is doing just to see where you are versus them. But John's always one of my go-to rankers as well. I like seeing, because of the depth of how you really break this down. And I've wanted to have you on this pod since I saw you work with Nelson on the Dynasty Depot pod. I think you're great, man. I think you're you the right amount of energy, passion, and frankly, I think is some of the best rookie analysis in the whole industry. So we were happy to have you here. Thank you for coming on. Hopefully, once things calm down, the grind stops, we can have you back before your grind starts for the rookie season again. And everybody, we'll be back again next week with another Dynasty podcast for the rest of the summer. And then this podcast will turn into a DFS podcast with some of our other guys at RotoWire. But we'll keep it going strong until September. Good luck in your Dynasty leagues. We'll see you next Friday.